This is Planet Music.
Welcome to Planet Music from the makers of Planet Marzipan.
In a streaming world, we're proud to be a podcast that celebrates the art of the album. Hello, welcome to Planet Music. I'm Meza. I'm here with the usual gang, so we say hello to
Craig
and
Mikey.
and
Greg.
hey, it's almost like they've got an order now. Look, it's almost organised, isn't it?
Yeah, don't.
Anyway,
Don't
let's behave,
expect
you
too much.
guys, because we've got a guest today.
Yeah, best be.
Welcome to Planet Music, Andrew Barnsley Wood.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here, by the way. Pleasure to be here.
Afternoon, Barnes. You're here in your capacity as an Uber fan of the album we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So not to build up your part, but
Well, it's his choice, this album as well, isn't it? So,
it is. It is. So for the first time, we've gone off-piste. The albums that we've talked about before have all been at least one of us knows the album and has a real affinity for it. But this time, we've been beaten into submission by Andrew Barnsley Wood, who tells us that Disintegration by The Cure is one of the best albums of all time. So
Always in my top five, John. At all
Yeah.
times. Always
Yeah.
in my top five.
So we thought we'd let him come on and talk to us all about it. I mean, obviously, we've listened to it as well. But we will do the usual intros if that's all right. So I'll do the Wikipedia entry for this album. So Disintegration is the 8th studio album by the English rock band The Cure, released on the 2nd of May 1989 by Fiction Records. The band recorded the album at Hook End Recording Studios in Oxfordshire with a co-producer. That's easy for me to say.
Keep
With
that in.
a co-producer, David M. Allen, from late 1988 to early 89. The album marks a return to the introspective gothic rock style the band had established in the early 80s. As he neared the age of 30, vocalist and guitarist Robert Smith had felt increased pressure to follow up on the band's pop successes with a more enduring work. This, coupled with a distaste for the group's newfound popularity, caused Smith to lapse back into the use of hallucinogenic drugs, the effects of which had a strong influence on the production of the album. And following the completion of mixing, founding member Lol Tolhurst was fired from the band. Craig, how old were you on the 2nd of May 1989?
oh, I was a ripe old age of 16.
Okay. Prime target for this then.
Yeah, and funnily enough, guess which band after The Cure were turfed out of Hook End Manor went in to do some stuff?
Who would that be?
A certain Marillion to do a certain season's end, wasn't it?
Okay. Well, should we talk a little bit about the background? I mean, the Wikipedia entry does talk about some of this in depth, about where the Cure were at in 1989.
I'll let you dive in.
Yeah, so I'll start with my little bit of knowledge. So I think they'd gone through a transition with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. It was the first one. Then they were trying to build on that and go forward into America as well and what have you. There was a couple of personnel changes. The style of the music changed slightly as well. It went into that kind of more atmospheric keyboards with the guitar playing second fiddle almost. Whereas the period that I loved, the sort of the 78 to 85 stuff, was guitar led with Robert and Lol and what have you. So it was a real transition for them. They were trying to maintain or break into America as they'd started to do with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. But there was also a lot of stuff going on within the band itself. So Disintegration was probably a good title for some of it, but it was definitely a transition period.
Barnes, do you want to expand on any of that?
Yeah, I will, if that's okay. I would slightly broader thing. So anyone who doesn't know The Cure, which I guess everyone knows a little bit about The Cure, start off as a three-piece band. Two of them certainly met when they were 5 years old, so they were sort of great mates. And their first album, Three Imaginary Boys, the track that everyone knows, it's still a classic, is Boys Don't Cry. Every rock disco ever. And then pretty much straight after that, their sound went sort of darker. 17 Seconds and Faith are two quite dark albums. And then they went probably a step further dark, and probably up to that point, their best album was Pornography, which is dark.
Yep.
It's got a figurehead, 100 years. It's doom and gloom. They've reached peak doom and gloom, if you like. After which, they brought out a couple of more upbeat albums with a few hits on it. I won't say they were great hits, as in massive million sellers. They did The Top, and followed by Head on the Door. By the time it got to Head on the Door, they were really starting to get known. They were sort of selling out. They'd gone up from concert halls to some arenas, but generally concert halls. But it was at that point they started making inroads into America. But it was and you'll have heard a lot of the songs. Close to Me is from that thing, In Between Day, and that sort of stuff. And then they did, which I think is the weirdest album of the lot, which was one called Kiss Me, which was a double album. And that did amazingly well in America. It had two sort of smash hits, Feels Like Heaven, or Just Like Heaven, and something else, can't remember. But the reality is their sound had changed quite a lot. And I think this brings us into the story, really, of Robert Smith, who everyone will know as the lead singer, and the main sort of writer, and essentially the leader of the band, sort of making the decision to go into the studio and go back to their original sound, repeating what Graham said, and make a much more intense, dark, brooding, and as we'll say about a billion times probably in the next hour, melancholy piece of work. And that, I think, is the build-up. I think, and also one little bit of sort of semi-trivia. It was so keen. It was thinking that doing these big stadiums in America, and they were sort of becoming mini superstars, if you like. Robert was starting to think they were all getting a bit too big for their boots, so he sort of knocked them down, possibly a peg or two, by enforcing you're not allowed to talk to him in the studio policy, which in theory was destined or designed to, create the mood and ambience of an album recorded straight through 1988's winter. I think it must be 1988, November, December, January, February, right into that part of the midwinter bleak thing in the middle of the English countryside.
Okay. And he was about to hit 30 as well, which was depressing him, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think this is my vote, but I don't know if this is true. He certainly mentioned that on numerous press conferences. I think the reality was it was more probably the indulgence in drugs, and depression, and his sort of weird relationship, or not weird, but his relationship with his fiancée at the time, and doing lots of touring, and the pressure of it all, and the sudden realization he's reaching 30. I think that was all the combination. So that would be my guesstimate of what it could be.
And just to add to what you've said, Lol Tolhurst was one of the original members, and he was still in the band at this point, but he had a big problem with alcohol, didn't he?
Yeah, I saw somewhere, John, that all the time they were singing the most depressing songs. Only thing Robert Smith would think about was how much he hated Tolhurst, who was supposed to be his mate. So God only knows what the atmosphere in the studio was like. But let's say probably influenced how the album was made. Let's say.
I think it permeates the album, if I'm honest, but we should come on to that. Anybody else anything to say about the lead up to the album before we go on to the charts? What was in the charts at the time?
So I think the whole dynamic changed as well. So if you look at what happened with the live band, they'd gone from this 3-piece. I think they became a 5-piece round about the top.
Yeah, that's right.
But when they were touring the States with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, they had a second guitarist. They had Trent Reznor come in and do some of the shows. So this whole thing, the whole touring band became a monolith. I mean, it still is. I saw them recently, and it's such a production. But I think that then permeated through to the way the sound was maintained on the next album. So on this album.
Just one more thing I might add as well, if I may, was sort of harping back to when I first heard it and things like that. When I was at sixth form, which was in 1987-ish, something like that, 86 maybe, there was like a greatest hit single, which is Staring at the Sea, which we might have all heard. And it was one of these things that played all the time, and most people either liked it or, God, what's this depressing rubbish? And I think most people fell into them two categories. And I think, to be honest, I was sort of on the cusp of either, really. I sort of pretended I liked it to be semi-cool, but in reality, for me, even that was a bit too dark at the time, let's say.
So, I mean, we'll talk about it a bit more, but is this the album that really got you into The Cure then?
Well, yes, it is really. But I mean, this is everything from this album. Yeah, it is totally. In fact, it was when I first heard this album. I was on a long haul flight actually, going on holiday with some mates, and the old classic. I packed my bags and left all my cassettes in my suitcase on the plane. So I borrowed a cassette off one of my traveling mates, and listened to it non-stop for 16 hours. And by the time I got to Singapore, it was like entrenched in my brain forever. And there you go. And that's part of it, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, so you heard the long version first off then?
Well, it was a cassette, so I didn't really know where side one ended and where side.
Yeah.
So I've always probably got it wrong. I've always considered the end of side 2 to be probably a different place to actually where it was, and it was just like a homemade cassette, home killing music and all that.
Mikey, what was going on in the charts at the time?
At the time, right, well, quite interestingly, though, the album spent in a solid run 23 weeks there, which is pretty impressive. Got to number 3, which I believe to this date is still their highest chart entry in the UK.
Not quite, Mike. Sorry to interrupt if I may. Their previous album got to number 1. The one that came out last year got to number 1.
Oh, right.
And that was their first ever number 1, to my knowledge.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But to that date, it was their highest chart entry. So, in the top 20, I'll just give you a very, very basic overrun. You've got things like Kylie Minogue, Paula Abdul, Guns N' Roses, Transvision Vamp, In Excess, Clannad, Madonna, Deacon Blue, The Miami Sound Machine, The Bangles, Simply Red. Top 5, Holly Johnson's Blast, Fine Young Cannibals, The Raw and the Coot at number 4, Disintegration by The Cure at number 3, 10 Good Reasons by Jason Donovan at number 2, and the number 1 slot was held by Simple Minds with Street Fighting Years.
Oh, cracking out.
So quite an eclectic chart, again.
That chart is full of absolutely morose and depressing albums.
Well,
apart from the one at number 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's unlike anything else that was around at the time, isn't it, really?
They kind of always were. Even when you compare them to the goth bands, they weren't like, if you think of Susie or The Mission or Sisters of Mercy or anything that was considered goth, The Cure always had something different.
Well, it's funny you should mention Susie, because I'm going to mention Budgie a bit later on, because there's one of the tracks on it, it sounds like he's all over it, but yeah.
But Robert Smith, no matter what, even though with his massive pop sensibilities, is the king of the goths. You can't say he's not blessed.
And he played guitar with Susie for a while as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were quite successful in straddling both lanes, or weren't they? I mean, my overriding memory of The Cure would probably be Boys Don't Cry, Love Cats, the typical ones. But Close to Me was the one that really, really stuck in my head since I was, of a young age. And it was that video of them in the wardrobe falling into the sea and playing on hair combs and stuff. Yeah. I thought that was just so bizarre. But I mean, I probably didn't even know what goth was back then. But I had a really good friend in school who was quite heavily goth, and she loved The Cure. And again, it was one of them things that I didn't quite get into, because our school was very compartmentalized. You weren't to like a certain thing unless you were a certain thing or looked a certain way. Very much like when I discussed the thing about Simple Minds, that was the trendies thing.
Well, it's tribe, isn't it? It's tribe.
Definitely. There was a lot of that going on in our school. So it was like I was aware of them and I liked them, but I really didn't get into them probably as much as I could have allowed myself to. And listening to this has been a bit of a revelation.
For me too. I mean, I to me, The Cure of 17 Seconds, I think A Forest is just amazing. Brilliant. Yeah. But I kind of drifted massively away from The Cure. It wasn't aimed at me, and we shall talk about that a bit more, I think, very shortly, I'm sure.
Indeed. Okay.
Shall we get stuck into the album?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think before you go through your tracks, though, John, if I again, I read a thing which I wasn't aware of, but at the time, Robert was sort of getting into doing soundtracks for films and things like that, or trying to get into sort of soundtracky sort of stuff. And apparently, he was asked to do the soundtrack to Edward Scissorhands.
All right.
Which he turned down. But again, this could be nonsense, but this is what I read. is that part of the look of Edward Scissorhands was based on Robert Smith, which sort of
Yes.
which I think it would be anyway, because they're in that sort of Tim Burton gothy world.
Yeah.
You know.
And if you look at the video, especially for Lullaby, is quite Tim Burton-esque and very Nightmare. But
Yeah.
yes, you can see the Tim Burton almost aesthetics used in that video.
I think the only thing I really sort of think of soundtrack wise when I think of The Cure or Robert Smith is Burn from The Crow.
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything else. I mean, you might have done a load, but
Yeah,
it's quite often you don't realise it.
That was their breaks. Their essentially only real sort of proper venture into it. I think they've done a little bits here and there, but that was the real thing. So I think
And again, not on an album.
Yeah.
But it's funny if you look at Plain Song, the first song on the album is very atmospheric, and it could be something that was part of the soundtrack.
Absolutely, yeah.
Possibly, quite possibly.
It's worth saying that the album was originally on vinyl, a 10-track album, and cassette and CDs were 12 tracks. So, but we will go through the full 12-track album if that's all right.
Do you think this is more one for you historians? 1989, were we coming to the end of the vinyl era anyway? Would you say
The start of it, yeah, the start of
Yeah.
the end.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would have said even at that time the definitive one was probably the CD. Would you say, or is it?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
cassette was still strong selling at that time, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know. I mean,
I think the end of '89, that Christmas of '89, was where it was really changing over to CD.
Yeah, you'll see a lot more bands around that time. You know, Fish, Marillion, Bee Gees, all of their releases straddling 89 to 90 had bonus tracks on the CD, which weren't necessarily just and tagged on at the end, this is your bonus track. They were actually part of the sequence of the album.
Yeah.
And
Removed from the
things
vinyl.
were omitted from the vinyl because it didn't fit.
yeah,
And that was it. I think the artists were playing to you can get 74 minutes of music on a CD. We're going to fill it.
I don't think they pushed to 74 minutes. In
No,
fact,
they were made
they
initially,
should
not
come in
initially.
about an hour, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
like 50 minutes to 55 minutes. You know,
I mean, your days
was
of
the song.
35, 40-minute albums had gone, I think, at that point.
But I mean, this album on CD runs for 71 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And the vinyl, even on its original print, had to run to 61 minutes. So I believe, not that I've heard it, but I would imagine that the original pressings of this album on one disc
They
would
are,
have
yeah.
sounded fantastic. Obviously, since 2010, they've been reissued on double vinyl, and
Yeah.
you know all the tracks are there, and they've probably got the audio quality that they needed. But yeah, nearly 72 minutes. That's a lot of music to get through.
It is. So let's start. Let's start with the first track. I'm going to come to Barnes first on all of these. So the first track is Plain Song.
Right. So I think just before I start, if I may, I said to John, I wouldn't call this prog rock because it isn't, but I would definitely call this album a concept album. I would definitely.
Definitely.
There's a concept that runs right through from start to finish. And also, in a weird way, I always see it as like the shape of I can see the shape of the graph of how the album flows, and you know the
arc of it.
The arc of the album, you
The
know,
ebbs and flows.
sequencing. It's very, very important, and I mean, I don't think you can get away from that. Most of the stuff across the whole album really is sort of, I mean, the clues in the title, isn't it? Disintegration. It's sort of someone breaking apart or coming, you know, someone's emotions coming to bits and going to a very low place. I think we can all pick up on that. So going into Plain Song, which is the first song, like many songs on this album, they've got incredibly long intros and often incredibly long outros with a modest length of vocals in the middle. And this fits right into that thing, starting with like a bit of a crescendo. And then the vocals, you know, you guys are much more knowledgeable than me, but they're almost got so much reverb on them that they're almost whisper talks rather than sang.
Yeah.
They're sort of very deep in the mix. So really, it's more of a texture, less than someone singing the song. Is that fair?
But they're kind of unrelated lyrics, aren't they? They're just kind of snatches of words and.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to read out all the lyrics, but I think it sort of sets the tone just for the first verse. I mean, the very first words are, I think it's dark and it looks like rain. The wind is blowing and it's the end of the world. And it's sort of you know, that's the theme, and it goes straight in with that, with I would say an incredibly lush sound, but as I say, you guys know more than I'll ever.
I think the keyboards do the keyboard washes do give it a bit of an expansive sound, but
It's almost an orchestral feel, almost.
yeah. But and throughout the album, the bass is incredibly high in the mix.
Yeah,
Because that's the Cure sound, it's the sort of New Order crossover, and
yeah. I think also the drums are almost drum machine like. There's so much written with a drum machine and then drummed on top with live drumming. You can sense that. And again, for us prog rockers, we want him to be bashing all over the place. But once you get into it, that's not the game. It's a sort of, if you really listen, it does mix it up, but it doesn't mix it up completely. It's keeping the same very reasonably simplistic beat, really, I would say.
yeah. Okay. Gray, what do you make of Plain Song?
So it's really it's really highly regarded by a lot. I mean, it sits quite high in lists of Cure songs and all this kind of stuff. But for me, it suffers because of the length of the intro. I love the atmospherics. I love that whole piece, but it takes so long to move anywhere. By the time it does, I'm just like, oh, God. And it doesn't do enough for me there's no payoff for me. So I really struggle with it because of that.
Okay. Mikey?
I'm going to say the complete opposite to Graham there.
Get in there, Michael. Get in there.
I love the long intro, and I like the fact that the lyrics are almost tentpole to the entire song. It's part of the song and not like the basis for the song. I think it sets out the manifesto for the album as it should. It's a fantastic intro. I agree with his comments already. I think the keyboard sounds almost wash over you. They're so lush and they're atmospheric, and I would actually say probably mesmerizing as much as atmospheric.
Yeah.
What I didn't notice though, when I first put the album on, hearing it for the first time, I had my headphones in, I was at work, and I thought I had the volume turned down really low because all I could hear was I think there were like wind chimes or something in the background. So what did I do? I cranked the volume up, and I'm busy sort of like mopping away, and then all of a sudden this big crash comes in, and I nearly spat my dentures out. It was a really good opener. I really liked it, and it takes like 3 minutes, like Graham says, to get the song, song proper into gear, if you like. But I think it's all the better for it. I agree, the reverb and the effects on the voice give it some sense of etherealness. I really like it. I think it's enchanting. I think there's almost like a trance state being put across, which I'll come on to in a second because it's interesting what they called the song. One thing I was saying good to say about the drums, they sound slightly offbeat at times, and I know the song mentions the wind, and the sense that I got, when you're walking against a powerful wind and you do that sort of like stop start, I'll take 3 steps and I'll do 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. There was that, the drums are kind of doing that sort of thing. It's almost like you feel like you're treading mud. I think it's so clever, the drum work in this. I think there's a lot to be said for it. To me, it's not just basic rhythm. I think it's very cleverly done. But anyway, I looked into the title Plain Song because I thought whenever bands call a song a name but don't use that name in the words, then I go off on a tangent. And Plain Song refers to ancient Christian vocal music, particularly Gregorian chants, which is monophonic and unmeasured in rhythm. And I think that basically says what the song's doing. I think it's really clever.
And it's also why that there's that big reverb and expansiveness, because it's like cathedral style, resonate. You just make the noise and let it resonate. Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised, and I think this was agree with Craig, and it's film soundtrack stuff. Love it.
Greg?
Well, I'm disappointed in the lot of you for not mentioning one thing.
Oh.
The very start of the album, those wind chimes are exactly the same as the start of Clutching at Straws. I've done it back to back loads of times. And they're there.
Who knew? Who knew?
So is that wind chimes in Hook Manor then? Hook End?
It's probably either from Hookend or it's probably from a sample or something like that.
BBC sound effects record. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
BBC Radiophonics Workshop. So
Yeah.
get your copy of Clutching at Straws, play the first few seconds, then play the first few seconds of Disintegration. You've got it. But like I say, you guys have covered it in so much detail. It's actually one of my favorite tracks on the album. I just like the way that it sets out the cart. You know, I love my atmospheric songs and my atmospheric music, and it goes somewhere as well. So I think like Mikey says, well, it lays the cards on the table for what the album is going to be, and yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'm probably going to disagree with a few of you. It's a really muddy sound. I think the vocals being so low in the mix, the rhythm section isn't together because the bass and the drums are doing completely different things. I really feared for the album because I don't know this record at all, and this was the first thing, and I thought, oh Christ, it's going to be a long 72 minutes. This.
Then you took them potatoes out your ears, John.
No, it gets better. Thankfully, it gets better, but this is not. Didn't really do it for me. There's a piece on Wikipedia that's saying the song plays a role in the climax to the film Ant-Man. It's playing when an iPhone Siri mishears the villain Corey Stroll's Darren Cross saying, "I am going to disintegrate you." Apparently,
You know, that's probably why I recognised the tune, but not knew where I kind of knew it from. It's probably from there.
yeah. So no, it's not a great opener for me, but things do get better, thankfully. Let's move on to the second track, which was a single, "Pictures of You." Barnes.
So I'm just trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to remember the arc of the album as it comes. So this is sort of, I guess in some ways it's my least favorite song on the album, and that doesn't mean I don't like it, but it's just the least favorite. It's a little bit, for me, a tad too long. My mates I go to the gig with, one of them, it's his favorite song they've ever done, and he literally, we have to all be quiet and wait while he sits and listens to it. You know what I mean? The story is, I mean, it depends who you believe. And I have read somewhere that Robert Smith does intend to elaborate on the truth a bit about the background of his stories to make them a bit of mystery in there. So there was a little bit of a chat about a house burning down and finding some photos, but I don't think it's that at all. Also, I read somewhere that Hookend Manor caught fire and it was the only thing he saved, and I think that was rubbish as well. So I think the reality is it's a story about remembering somebody. That, you know, it's a sort of part of the very start of the story about a lost love or the end of a relationship, and you spend your time staring so long in your miserable state at these pictures that they become real and the real person's gone. I think that's my reading of the story. I mean, I'm sure Mikey knows how it did in the charts and things like that, but it's one of their more popular songs. I think it's probably in their top 10 most popular songs. I did Google all this. I think it's number 6 or something like that, most listened to songs. And for me, it's after this song where the album starts, if that makes sense.
Okay. Great.
So I think it does suffer on the album from being a little bit too long. Because what is it? Nearly 8 minutes, well, 7.5 minutes long. The single obviously was only 4.5, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the version I knew first.
Yeah,
and fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Fell in love with it when I played the album the first time, and it was a case of that's not Pictures of You. What's going on there? Because there is a change between the intro and then when the vocals start, there's a change in the song. For me, it's one of the top 3 tracks on the album, probably because I knew it so well beforehand. I knew so well as the single before I'd listened to the whole album. I think it suffers from being too long on the album, though. I do agree with that. But the 12-inch version is quite good as well.
Okay. Mikey?
I think the length of this is absolutely perfect. I was only aware of the 7-inch version, obviously, prior to listening to the album. So when I put it on, I was like 7 minutes, thought that wouldn't have been a single, you know. So for me, the first 3 songs on the album are almost like a mini suite. I think they belong together and they live and breathe together. And I think the length of this track in particular works better because of that. It's like a hinging point between the first and the third song on the album. I was getting massive Joy Division New Order vibes with this, and it's very, very bass driven. As I think, like you said, John, I think a lot of the songs on this album are, but that's the Cure's sound. And it's funny that on the elder sister pod, Planet Marzipan, that you've had a lot of Marillion fans saying that they love this album.
Yes.
And when I'm listening to this in its album format, I can understand why. And I actually believe Marillion could do a stonking cover version of this. I think it would be right up their street. I really, really do.
Never heard Ian and Pete play like this.
I think it would be brilliant. I really do. I think allowing the track to breathe either side of the vocals on this track are absolutely essential. Because the first song on the album was obviously quite subdued, and like you're getting to his normal vocal delivery by this song. So I think having the musical, start and end is needed. The only thing I would say about the track is that the ending's far too abrupt for my liking. It just, snap ends.
Yeah, it falls away, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, and I checked out the 12-inch version, and it really is not much different. It's just a slightly different mix and a slightly different take. It's only about 30 seconds longer than the album version. Yeah. Because after listening to this, I've down a rabbit hole into the follow-up album mixed up. This is quite interesting that they follow quite a dark album, and then Mr. Smith sort of then goes, I'm going to curate an album full of remixes.
Yeah.
I think it was probably essential at the time. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I think it's perfect. Leave it as it is. Thank you very much.
Okay. Greg?
This is one of the songs that I was quite familiar with the single edit version, being played quite a lot on radio and you've MTVs and VH1s. The singles of this did really well. I like it. One thing I think it's really funny because I'd never seen the video for this before. I'd heard the single a lot around. I'd never seen the video for it before, and I watched that the other day for the first time. And it's them playing outside in the snow with palm trees. And it's shot quite avant-garde with handheld cameras and things. And it's funny because it doesn't necessarily fit with the theme of the rest of the videos for the singles for the album. But I think it is a classic Cure song, and it's a classic Cure single, and I like it.
Okay, this is where the album starts for me. I think Plain Song is quite a long intro, but this is what the Cure sound like to me. This is, Smith's vocals are clean and clear, and you can hear what he's singing. The bass and the drums are playing together, and it's got a bit more pace to it than Plain Song, thankfully. I think the 7-minute, it's just got room to breathe. I think the single I was aware of, like you guys. I mean, the piece on Wikipedia about this song does allude to what you'd said, Barnes, about according to interviews, the inspiration for the song came from when a fire broke loose in Smith's home. After that day, Smith was going through the remains and came across his wallet, which had pictures of his now wife, Mary, and the cover of the single is one of those pictures. So some of that does kind of ring true. But yeah, it's great, and I think its length allows it to expand a bit.
But do you not think it's also what Barnes had mentioned before? Sorry to dive in with it. There's a lot of the songs where you don't get any lyrics, sometimes till halfway through a song, or at least sometimes even 2 minutes into a song before.
But we're used to that with the other stuff that we listen to, aren't we? That's not unusual, I think.
But on a band who, I'm not saying that they're not like a pop band, the Cure are the Cure, they are what they are. But for to get such commercial success.
But if this is Robert pushing back against all the pop stuff that they've done, I can understand that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to pick up on that, though, I think other than to fans of The Cure or fans of this album, The Cure really have always been a singles band. So if you look at Staring at the Sea, half the album actually doesn't appear on an album. You know, it's singles that didn't appear on albums. It's singles that they released, and they're renowned for doing that. So it's almost as if they had stuff.
I don't think you can say that when the previous album was a double, can you? They clearly are an album.
But so Staring at the Sea was the album before Kiss Me, Kiss Me. So so if you look at what happened before, it was all about singles. They released stuff in between albums, all that kind of stuff, and then there was a sea change.
I don't think Love Cats was on one of their albums, and I don't.
No, it wasn't. Love Cats wasn't on an album.
Yeah, there's a couple of others like on that sort of level that never made it onto an album.
Yeah,
as you rightly said. You know, I mean, I always see them as an album band because I listen to albums. I don't listen to singles so much. So you see it through different eyes, I guess, don't you? You know.
Plus, if they're not an albums band, how have they got on here?
Well, exactly, John.
And interestingly, the single actually only got to number 24. So, I'm saying only, that's, still a hit in a lot of people's cases, but it wasn't released until the 19th of March 90. It was nearly a year.
Nearly a year afterwards, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The album came out, yeah.
Fourth single, isn't it, from the album? Yeah.
But it does make Rolling Stone and Billboard top single charts. So it's in the top 500 singles and Rolling Stone in the top 40 records from The Cure and Billboard, I think, isn't it?
That was in 2011, though.
Yeah, so it's still 15 years after the album was released.
Yeah.
12 years after the album released.
So do we think, was the single released that late on to coincide with the tour? I think probably.
Most probably, just keep it going. Also,
tends to be that way.
Also, sort of jumping the gun a little bit, at the end of the tour, Robert Smith said they were never going to tour again, and that was the end of The Cure, and they sort of took a hiatus for...
Well, no, because they played Glastonbury the following year.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, apparently used to sell at the end of every tour, so that doesn't really help. But I think there was a long gap between this album and the next one, which was...
He sounds very much like Derek. He's got cunning plans that never quite come to fruition, but...
Quite possibly.
Okay, let's move on to the next track on the album. Barnes, it's track 3, which is Close Down.
Yeah, I mean, I love all of these songs, but I love this one particular. It's just a good song. Again, it's on the mold of a long intro, few words, and it's more an atmospheric thing. The story is really narrating someone's descent towards disintegration, really. Closing down. I think there's if you Google closing down, it actually means something about someone closing down, clearly, but it's a bit deeper than that. Yeah, I mean, I just love the sound of it. I think it fits in perfectly between the two most upbeat songs on the album, really, and sort of brings it down and sort of helps to flow the album for me. I think it's I can't say enough about it. I think it's an absolutely fantastic song.
It's certainly shorter than what's preceded it. It's only about...
and it's very simple. There's not a lot to it. Again, I've got the lyrics here, and it's a couple of words from the lyrics, but you get the gist of it very quickly. It's it might take me a second to find it, but it's like, closing down, I'm going out of time. It's sort of, that's the sort of, the essence of it all, really. Does that make sense? Here we go. I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. I'm out of step. I'm closing down. Never sleep for wanting hours. The empty hours of greed, etc., etc. And it's and then there's only 4 more lines, and that's all the lyrics to the song. So there you go.
Okay, Gray.
So until about 2 minutes ago, I'd probably, or slightly longer maybe, I'd probably said, "Yeah, not for me." But Craig, with the arc of the 3 songs, has put the song in an entirely different light, because if you think a plain song with the sort of the Gregorian chant as the dawn and the what have you, and then pictures of you being the daytime, someone on Reddit has written an explanation of this song as being the regret of staying up all night and viewing the sunrise through tired old eyes, the shedding of identity that transmutes into, and I can't see the rest of the post because I've not got the full link up, but that arc of morning, day, and then and I've been tired at the end of the process. The music fits. It actually puts it in a different light straight away when I think about it like that. I hadn't thought of those 3 songs as linked, but that also ties into Barnes. It's a concept album. It's got that journey through the arc. And
I sort of see them all as linked in this weird sort of flowing.
Yeah.
I agree with what Craig said about the 3 songs, but I would just keep
that was Mikey. It was Mikey.
Was it Mikey?
It's Mikey.
It was me.
Well done, Mikey.
Sorry, Mikey.
They don't really listen to what anybody else has said on here, folk. They just say their bit and get off. Mikey, follow that.
As being the last part of the 3-part suite that I said that the album was.
That's a great concept. Who came up with that?
Come up with that.
I think it just closes those 3 perfectly. What I really like about it is the heavy drums throughout it. I think it's almost
This
tribal.
is the track that reminds me of Budgie from the Banshees.
Yeah. It's got it's just a very hard live drive to it, and I think it works really, really well. It reminds me a little bit of very hard and loose old OMD or John Fox Ultravox. There's I think it's that sort of like post-punk new wave thing going on, and I think it's obviously Robert Smith's kind of like bringing old Cure into new Cure sensibilities. I think it works really, really well. I love the keyboards throughout this as well. There's just so much atmosphere going on the track. But again, the one thing that lets it down is the ending for me. For some reason, the 2 tracks that are like side by side have just got really naff endings. I just don't know whether they just didn't have time in the studio to bake them properly, whether that's how they wanted it to end. But as a poem set to music, I think it works beautifully. You can't really say it's anything other. I mean, it's just one verse. But yeah, love all 3. I think them 3 tracks together for the start of an album are absolutely outstanding. Good one.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, I've found it to feel like a sister song to Plain Song. I love the rhythmic drums on it. I also love the fact that, considering how high up in the mix and the rest of the album the bass is, it's not here. It's subtle. It goes with it. The keyboards are lush. And the guitars are nice. I think it's got a nice flow to it. And again, there's very, very little lyrics in it. It doesn't start till halfway through the track. But nice little cinematic experience, and it does get the feeling of either very late at night or very early in the morning. And I think Mikey's right with the flow of it.
Okay. I'm not really a fan of this. It's more of the first track again. I think the lyrics are spoken rather than sung. The drumming is quite impressive, but the bass off doing its own thing and the guitar off doing something else. It's atmospheric, but I mean, because Pictures of You precedes it, it puts this in the shadow of that for me. I'm looking for a hook or a lyric or I mean, if I asked you to whistle close down to me now, none of you could do it. Could you?
Never see Brought on Alvarez not singing as well.
Yeah. None of you could do it because it's not. That's not what it's about. But it's just more of the first track again. It would be great on a vinyl. I'm sure the double vinyl, probably this is the end of side 1. So it would follow that arc that Mikey suggested, but not really for me, that one. Track 4 is another single, Barnes' Love Song.
Yeah, this is, I think everyone will probably all agree, this is almost the anomaly on the whole album, actually. It's short, to the point. He apparently wrote this for his wife-to-be as a wedding present. I think in the context of the album, in some ways, it doesn't fit to the story. But in other ways, if you really look at the lyrics, it's sort of it's not the most lovey-dovey of love songs. It's almost saying I'm away touring and it'd be nice to be back home. And and every time I'm away from you, you make me feel like I'm whole again, things like that. But really, I think it's a bit of sort of regret that he's away when he should be at home, really. And I think it's an element of that vibe about it. Or is it that he's absent-minded and it's, in a world where his depression's not great and all that sort of stuff. And it's a bit deeper than it comes across just as a love song, if that makes sense.
Okay. Great.
Love it. I get top 3 song, but I think for me, and picking up on Barnes' thing about it not be really fitting in perhaps with the album, it's old-fashioned Cure for me.
Yeah,
it's that short and to the point, guitar led, really great. I love it, and it's layered exactly as I totally agree with the lyrics thing. It on the surface, if you just take it as you see it, it's a love song, but there's so many layers about the regret, the kind of almost the depression side of it. So it's I think, what did it get? Number 2 No, yeah, number 2 in the Billboard 100 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
the best
really,
seller off this album, wasn't it? It was like the big. I think it was the biggest hit at the time, almost.
yeah, and top 20 in the UK. So really big song. And for me, I think it was the redeeming factor of the album, because it was what made me think, right, it's still The Cure.
I'm sure the record company were over the moon when they heard this.
Interestingly, the album is Fiction Records, but this is Fiction and Electro Records. It was done by both labels, so I don't know if it was
made in America though,
because it was a US single. Because it was the US single. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think Fiction over here are part of Phonogram. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Mikey?
Yeah, this got to number 18, as it happens. And
In the UK?
In the UK, sorry, yes. As much as I like the fact that this song changes the pace and the feel of the album, I feel that the concept, if you like, is a little bit thrown away, because there's themes of like water running throughout this whole album, and this seems to get passed by. That being said, had the extended version been put on, which runs at about 6 minutes 20 and is far superior to the single version, I think it would have worked better.
Where is it extended? Is it like an instrumental?
It's just instrumental pieces either side. And to me, I think the album version just runs a little too short. I think it's a much needed part of it that you've got a very unmistakable melody going on in this track, haven't you? That it's unmistakably Cure, absolutely brilliant. And the bass line, it's very Peter Hook. I don't care what anybody says, it's a very...
But it's not as prominent as the bass in some of the other tracks, is it?
That's right. But it's a different feel, and I think after the first 3 tracks, it's needed.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little bit misplaced. I don't know whether it's the position on the album or what, but don't get me wrong, I do like the track. I just think it's a little misplaced.
Okay, Craig?
I mean, it's an iconic Cure song, really, isn't it? I mean, the keyboard riff all the way through is, you probably go, that's the Cure. Anybody, even if you don't know the Cure that well, you listen to that and you go, that's the Cure. And yeah. I think, like Mikey says, it is too short for what it needs to be. So was it like 3.5 minutes or something? Then it just drops.
Yeah, it's 3:29. Yeah.
Yeah, it just drops off at the end. It doesn't have a fade out or anything like that. It just bam, finished. And I think I haven't heard the extended version, I'm probably going to agree with Mikey, even without hearing it, that it could have done with more for the album version.
Yeah, go listen to Mixed Up. Get it queued up. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but it's funny because watching the video for the single as well, it's another dark and creepy. This one seems like it was shot on the Planet Hell stage on Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine Voyager. They had this set that they used as an alien planet with all these stalagmites and stalactites. It just looks like it was shot on there for the Princely Sum of Twopence. But there you go. I'll find an Anorak wave in a song. You know what I'm like.
Yeah, you crowbarred that in, didn't you?
Oh, too good,
right. This is the best track on the album. For me, I think the fact that it's shorter means they're more focused, and it's got a tune. Smith's singing on it. This is classic, as you've said. This is a classic Cure sound to it. Yeah, the lyrics are completely out on their own compared to the rest of the album, aren't they? It's a love song. Yeah. And it's quite a simple one at that, but it's great. Yeah, I love that.
Do you think when they were writing the album, they got a few of these sort of songs stored away and just think, actually, now would be a good time to place this in it just to, alter the curve of the album? I mean, you can imagine that happening.
I joked about it earlier. I can see the record company actually hearing what they've got and saying, where's the single?
Yeah. Or can you use, where's the light and dark instead of the dark?
Yeah. It's a good contrast to what comes next, isn't it, really?
Very much so. Very much so.
Track 5 then, Barnes, Last Dance.
So I mean, I'm going to say I love all the songs, so it's pointless saying that at the start of each one. I would describe this one as not dissimilar to the first, third, and in this case, fifth song. It sort of sandwiches between them. Again, it's quite, it's quite a lot of music before the songs come in. But when the lyrics do come in, it's very much a song about either meeting someone for significantly after a breakup, so like a teenage love relationship sort of thing that you meet 10 years later, or some sort of reminiscing back to the last dance, which might have been 5 years ago, but when you meet this girl who's now a woman, she's completely changed, but the storyteller's life's not moved on. And sort of they're going on with theirs, and I think is in a self-loathing sort of way, is sort of thinking they've moved on with their life and I'm not really, nothing's improving in the nicest way. I think that's how I would badly describe it, if that makes sense.
Okay, Gray.
I like this. I think this is a combination for me. So that it's in two parts. The intro piece makes me think of early 80s Simple Minds, and the actual
was that when it kicks in, it sounds like Charlie Burchill to me.
Yeah, but then also the bass. So when it kicks in, you've got Charlie Burchill, but when the bass turns from that kind of do 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 to the sort of growling, driven riff bit,
yeah,
it's more New Order, I think, than
at the beginning's New Order to me. But
yeah,
when the song kicks in,
it's sort of for me, it's things that I like mashed together, which means that where I've complained about the length of previous things or the instrumental bits of previous, to me, this flicked a switch. I like this because it made me think of other stuff that I liked.
The other stuff that I found a little bit on this as well is the bass work at the start reminds me a bit from Duran Duran's Wedding album. I don't know whether it's say that Come Undone or it could be Come Undone. It's definitely got a vibe of one of the two of the tracks on there.
Okay, Mikey.
Well, I was just going to pick up on that, Craig, because as I was going to say, like, there has been a couple of tracks that I've listened to this and I thought Duran Duran could have done this.
Yeah,
Obviously, we're talking like early Duran Duran again.
Yeah, the more guitar-y kind of.
Yeah, but again, it's all that post-punk, new wave, romantics kind of. It was a big melting pot, and I think you can see where a lot of bands were like kind of picking up sounds, carrying them on, and riffing off each other. I love this song. I would say it's number 3 in my top 3 on the album, and I think it's an absolute travesty. This taken off the vinyl edition. I can't disagree with anything that's been said, and I agree with you, Barnes. When I was listening to the lyrics, I really got that thing where you see somebody that you haven't seen in, like, I don't know, 20 years or something, and you go, I kissed you once and now look at you, and I don't know, I wasn't getting the I'm with an old thing, but I was getting the hanging for things that were, I think the thing is with Robert Smith's writing is he's almost writing a midlife crisis 20 years too early. But if I'd listened to this album when it came out, I probably wouldn't have got it at all. I think listening to it the age I am now, I 100% get it, and I can, the themes and what have you, I can pick up on and understand. And I don't think I would have been that at the age of, well, I would have been 15 at the time. And I certainly wasn't a goth, so I wouldn't have got it at all, But yeah, I think the drum work, the keyboard work, the guitar work, it's another very filmic piece. And it is, to me, it's carrying those themes through from the first 3 tracks. I think it's, again, it's that, the arc and the ups and downs of the light and shade of the album. I think it works really well after Love Song as well.
Okay.
So yeah, top 3 for me.
Great. Craig?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think it's musically, it sounds like what you would think of as a traditional Cure song. I think it's got influences all over the place. Lyrically, I think you're right, the midlife crisis thing. The only thing I would say with this is, I mean, I've had conversations with John a lot. My if I'm going to say I've got a problem with The Cure at all, it's with his vocals. I've never. It's a bit like me and the Smiths. I've never got on with Morrissey's vocals, and I find with The Cure, Robert Smith's vocals to me sometimes they work in a lot of songs, but sometimes they don't work for me. And when he's a bit mopey and a bit like that, I get where he's coming from, but it's not quite my bag. But I think musically this track's interesting.
Yeah. This is the big discovery on the album for me. I think this is the first track where everyone's moving in the same direction. It's a proper band track. I think the lyrics are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They do, you know, it kind of feeds into what we're talking about at the beginning of the conversation. He's turning 30, he's feeling older, and he's looking back on his youth and going out drinking, meeting somebody, kissing them. I think the motif of the comparing the woman to only a girl, which is repeated 3 times in the lyrics, is really clever and really evocative of that feeling of things aren't like they were when we were young. We've changed. Life has changed. But I think it's a brilliant track. It really is. It's not a single. I think Smith, as Craig just said, sometimes I think Robert Smith's got 3 ways of singing: mumbling, talking, and singing. And thankfully on this track he's singing. I think it's great. Really good.
And I think it also hits us. There's a few artists and a few of us ourselves. Hitting 30 was a big thing. We've all gone past like 40 and 50 since, and I never had an issue going past 40 and 50. But 30, by God, 30 was depressing.
Sorry, 40, 50 and
60 and 70, John.
Yeah, thank you. 70 indeed.
I was trying to be nice.
No, I feel 70 at the minute. It's all right.
You don't look a day over 35.
Yeah, you need to get your
Switch
screen clean, mate.
Plus tax.
Let's move on. Track 6 is Lullaby. Barnes.
Right. I know you said Robert Smith's got 3 ways of singing. He starts this one with a whisper, so that's probably the 4th way.
It's talking though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay, we'll go for 4. Yeah.
I'm sure if you got your headphones on, you would have heard him whisper, "I spy with my little eye," something beginning with S. I don't know if you picked up on that. But then, if you took this on absolute face value, you start thinking, well, it's a song about a spider. What's he singing about? But clearly, it's much deeper than that. It's supposedly, if from my research, and again, I don't know how much of this is true and how much this is made up. Apparently, he had a relative, an uncle or something, that used to tell him good night stories, which were always scary, and then he got to bed and wasn't able to sleep. So I don't know.
I believe it was his father.
His father, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was his uncle Robert. Same name.
Okay, so there's that backstory, but I think the real story is really, it's a song about insomnia. I think it's harping back to depression and all that sort of part of the world, over drug induced, God knows what. And the real story is you go to bed at night, and then at night you either can't sleep, or when you do sleep, you're waking up in a sort of cold sweat, that's it. And it's, what's it called? Hilariously called Lullaby. There's nothing really lullaby about it in the slightest. But there you go. And before I sign off on this, the other bit, I'm sure one of you are probably going to pick up it anyway, is the video. And I've sort of held back talking about the videos anyway, but they almost always used a chap called Tim Pope. He's one of their mates. And without name dropping too much, I've met the guy a couple of times, and jolly nice guy he is too. But this one, I think is the best video, definitely. This is where the money was spent. I think it looks great. That said, I don't think any of the videos suit the album. They suit the single. So it's great for MTV. Yeah. For this is the single, this is the video. None of them really. I mean, I just look at the album cover, and that's the image for me. I just like do it all through the album cover, and the videos really are sort of completely outside that, if that makes sense.
Okay, Gray.
This for me is my favourite song on the album. It's just the way the music's done. That stop start. I mean, it flows, but all the different parts are interlocked in the way it works together, and it makes me think. I mean, I know it's been deleted now, so those who haven't seen it will never see it. the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It's got that kind of creepy kind of, and it fits with that kind of the uncle telling the creepy stories. But it's not a song; it's a poem. I mean, if you read the lyrics, it's so well done. It's a poem set to music. I mean, on candy striped legs, the Spider-Man comes softly through the shadow of the evening sun, stealing past the windows of the blissfully dead, looking for the victim shivering in bed. It's like, it just goes on. Like, it's not a lullaby, really, is it?
Far from it.
But I love it.
Okay. Mikey?
Yeah, I was going to say Tim Burton meets Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah.
Again, this is unmistakable Cure at its best. I mean, the opening bass lines and the riffs and everything that carry throughout this song are just sublime. They really are. And I love the fact that you've got those whispering vocals at the beginning and end. The last line I thought was brilliant, which is, come into my parlour, said the spider to the fly. I have a little something here. It's insidious. I think it's wonderful. I don't know whether it's real violin or synthesized violins, but they sound beautiful.
Sounds like keyboards to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and the pizzicato sounds. It's chilling, but it gives you that sense of claustrophobia, and as it was portrayed by Tim Pope in the film. I mean, Robert Smith's like rigid in bed. He can't move he can't even move his head, you know. And it's that sort of like fever dream kind of state. And I think that comes across in the music quite well. One of the things I was going to mention, I did read up about the thing about his uncle telling him the lovely bedtime stories. I mean,
to be fair, the Wikipedia entry does say it's his father.
Oh, right.
It says the premise of the song came to Smith after remembering lullabies his father would sing him when he could not sleep. My father would always make them up. They always had a horrible ending. There would be something like "Sleep now, pretty baby, or you won't wake at all."
Wowzers.
What's the telephone number for child services?
Esther.
Yeah, the thing I was going to mention was the whole spider thing, because if you've ever been on opiates, whether that be recreational or in hospital, there is a thing that you have where you see black things. And I remember being quite heavily sedated in hospital. And I remember saying to the nurses, I can see spiders in the corner of the room. And they were like everywhere. And she says, oh, don't worry about it. That's the morphine. And she says it's very, very common. So I was wondering if that had some play in the song or whether it's just pure coincidence.
I think almost certainly, I would say.
That's how it made me feel. It gave me that morphine, fear, sweat, dream state feeling. Listen to this. I think it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And quite rightly, the highest chart position in the UK.
It is, yeah.
Got to, in April of '89.
Cool. Greg?
Yeah, this was a real big crossover single for them then, because this got heavy rotation Radio 1 and stuff, and it was around everywhere. And I think, you know, it is a classic, iconic Cure single, and I think it probably got a lot of fans into them at that time. And I think the video for it creeps me the hell out. It really does. It just it does what it is on the tin. It really does. It keeps saying iconic, but it is, and it's definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. But it's a song I've known since it came out. Go on, Bonds.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'll just add it to the list anyway. It also won the Music Video of the Year in 1989 or 1990. So whatever year it sort of was exhibited, it won the award for the best video. Just so you know.
Yeah, cool. It was the first single from the album, so it preceded the album by about 3 weeks. It was out on the 10th of April '89. It to me it sounds like The Cure. It sounds like Close to Me era The Cure, which is no bad thing. Again, it's another track where everyone's moving in the same direction, so that they're the ones that are easier on my ear.
Can I pick up on that?
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons I'm not going to say disappointed in the album, but confused by the album really when it came out was the first two singles were Pictures of You and Lullaby, and they came out before the album came out. And they were, to me,
Pictures of You was the last single.
well, that was in 1990, wasn't it? Yeah. But this before the album, so it's very much The Cure. It's very much of what you would expect. And it's a case of, well, that's when I listen to the album, that's not what I got. Which really kind of like, whoa, hang on a minute, I'm not sure if I like this.
Yeah.
And I still struggle with it, probably because of that reason.
I could see that. Yeah, absolutely. It's very different to the singles, isn't it? Most of it.
But but it's also odd that in America they didn't want to go with Lullaby as the first single.
Well, there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about that track now, aren't we?
Yeah, set it up for you.
Thanks, mate. Barnes, let's talk about Fascination Street.
Yes, Fascination Street. So from now on, I'm just going to call them all 10 out of 10 epic songs. So it's utterly pointless me telling you how great they are. So I'll just, because they are. But I think now we could suggest that, for me, I know you mentioned the first three songs came as a suite. I would say from now to the very end is one enormous long sort of suite in itself, even though this is a single. It's not a traditional single, I don't think anyone would say, in its sort of format.
Was it a single over here?
I don't think so.
In America, wasn't it? Yeah.
America, yeah. If we're counting 4 singles off the album, we could call this one the 4th of 4, or certainly one that wasn't released in the UK. The story, Fascination Street, is to my knowledge, from my research and all that, is the story of sounds like a debauched night out on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, where, depends where you read it from, but it's really saying there's lots of noise, everyone's talking, but no one's listening. And I think it's a metaphor for sort of drug-fueled sex and sort of a one-night stands meets a very, again, self-loathing, what was all that about sort of track to me. In its opening time on Fascination Street, that's sort of it's all about that. Love it to bits, like I love all the album, but as I say, this really is now the start of the descent downwards on the curve into disintegration, if you like. This is, we've sort of done with the singles, really, technically or semi-technically, and we're now following the musical journey downwards, I would say.
Okay, great.
It's really weird because listening to the song in isolation, I really like it, because it's quite driven. It's got that kind of New Order. Is it New Order? Joy Division? Probably more New Order. That kind of bass-driven, dark pop sound in it, and I really like it. But I've just had Lullaby, and I loved it, and I just thought, oh my god, do we have to go back? And when I play the album, it's like, do I have to go back to this? And it's weird because in isolation, I really like the track, but by this point in the album, I'm missing The Cure, and I think that's my issue with it.
Okay.
And then it goes down from there.
Mikey.
For me, this is another one of those tentpole parts of the album. I think Lullaby and Fascination Street are kind of like the end of one and the start of another. But for me, the end arc doesn't begin until the next track. I think this is another standalone one, like Lullaby for me. But it's a very, very rocky track, and I think that's needed at this point. A bit of faster pace, a bit of hard hitting, just all out rock almost. To me, Simple Minds could have played this.
That's just what I was going to say. For me, on my notes, I've got it's like New Order meets Joy Division meets The Cure meets Simple Minds.
Yeah, I could just see Jim Kerr rocking out to this one. I really, really could. Probably sort of like just probably prior to Street Fighting years' time. But anyway, for me, the 9-minute 12 extended version is far superior to the album version as well. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my own playlist together and just insert all the extended versions.
Is that on mixed up then? Because
it is on mixed up, yep.
Is that the version you're talking about?
Yep.
I'm going to say, because the extended version on the single was 8:48, so That's a different.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. What I meant to say was it's nearly 9 minutes on the 12-inch, not 9/12. Sorry. Looking at my jumbled up spider crawling notes. Yeah,
Does your house have an extension?
it needs one.
It's like obviously.
So yeah, I love one of the lyrical lines, by the way, and I'm going to read that out now, which went, "But if you open your mouth, then I can't be responsible for quite what goes in, or care what comes out." Just thought it's really, really clever. And again, it was like picking up on that sort of like sleazy sex thing. It's like, I don't want to like put it out too bluntly, but if you're going to be having sex with a hooker, you don't want to listen to what they've got to say. You're just going to do the deed and then bugger off, you know. It was much better put like this. But yeah, I really like the track, but it works much better as a 12-inch version than it does on the album.
Okay. Craig?
I forgot something. Sorry, quickly.
Go for it.
The guitar work. Sorry, quickly. The guitar work that Robert Smith does on this is very similar to the kind of work he did with Susan the Banshees.
Yeah.
The sound and the way he worked. Sorry, that was just yeah.
Yes, because he did used to cheat on them with them, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd have two jobs? This, I think, was a very curious choice for the lead single in America. I can almost guess why they went with it being a bit more guitar driven and having a different feel to it. I'm with Mikey completely with the whole sleazy aspect and everything with it. It's not one of my favorite tracks on the album, I have to say, but I can appreciate it, and it's odd because I've dug out the video for it, and it's just a live in performance with a blue background, just done on the cheap, just to get a video out there for the release for America. But yeah, it's interesting, and it doesn't sound that Cure like compared to the rest of the album, but I suppose it horses for courses.
I think it's the most live sounding track we've had so far for me.
A band song.
Yeah, well, another band song, because there's been 2 or 3 before this, I think, but this is, yeah, it's going to be difficult what I say because I know how much this last part of the album means to bands, but it's some relief before the descent. Is that would that be fair?
I think melancholy is the word you're looking for, John.
Is it? It's not about collies, no. Yeah, I like this. It's good.
Or melons.
It's good. Come on then, Barnes. Where are we going from here? I haven't got my track list. Sorry.
Prayers for Rain.
Next one's Prayers for Rain.
Prayers for Rain, yeah.
So as John rightly said, Catelli loves these songs. We're now descending downwards towards the title track. So there's 2 tracks before that, and this is where it really starts to get dark. It's waiting for the rain, I guess, or praying for the rain. I guess that's a metaphor for, if you're a farmer and your crops are withering, you pray for the rain, but this is clearly not about that. So it's really praying for escape from this, descent and sort of self-loathing, really. And yeah, I mean, I just absolutely love this song, and the next one as well, which clearly we'll come on to. We're no longer anything like a singles band at all. It's very much soundtrack meets almost prog rocky, not in its music playing, but in its storytelling suite of long songs. They could almost be all stuck together into one long song for me. It could be Duke's Travels in a similar way, really.
No, sorry, no. It's got nothing to do with Duke's
I've been waiting on that response.
Nothing.
Like a darker version, perhaps, of Duke's Travels.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
So undeniably taking a downward spiral, and also I know it sounds like it's clearly a miserable album. It's clearly, but I don't think that means listening to it's a miserable experience at all. I've listened to it so many times. I think it's sort of joyous how brilliant the album is. Not partly because I like it, but partly because it's so dark and so low and so bass driven and heavy.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was talking to Craig about this album this morning.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that this is what Brave sounds like to somebody who's not a Marillion fan.
Yeah.
It's a bit, on first listen, it's quite impenetrable.
Yeah.
And it just goes on.
It most certainly does. Yeah.
But if you live with it, I've played it a good few times now, and shafts of light start to appear, and hooks that you didn't get on the first few playthroughs start to come out.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. I imagine sort of listening to it in a, like if it's Brave, you listen to it in the dark, but this is listening to it in a sort of cheap flat when there's sort of a mold on the sort of side of the flat.
bed set.
Outside, middle of November, freezing cold, and you can't afford to put the heating on, and you're falling out with your girlfriend, sort of thing, and lost your job. Let's put something to cheer us up on. That's the angle we're going at, guys.
It's a basement bed set album. Yeah, totally.
Can't afford the rent. That's the game. That's where we're at.
Oh,
Go on, Greg.
yeah. You're right about the cracks of light. And I've never listened to this with a critical ear. I've just listened to it as a Cure album and enjoyed the bits that I like and sort of tried to ignore the bits that I don't. I've done a lot more listening to this since we decided we were going to do it. And I hear, like I said, we've mentioned Simple Minds, we've mentioned New Order and Susie and the Banshees, and we've mentioned those. Weirdly, this one makes me think, if not vocals, because it's completely Fields of the Nephilim. It's got that Fields of the Nephilim, that driven bass, that overdriven everything. It's like, and I love Fields of the Nephilim. So I'm listening because I'm trying to force myself to listen with an open mind rather than the decisions I'd made when I first heard it. I'm hearing more and enjoying it, but I do wonder. So a lot of people say that this is about his fear of 30. This is the manifestation of him getting old. It's terrifying, but I do wonder if it's perhaps a reaction to drugs or the fear of something, because you fracture me, your hands on me, a touch so plain, so stale it kills. You strangle me, entangle me in hopelessness and prayers for rain.
Yeah, it's a bit heavy for a 30th birthday, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, fuck me, it's a depressing lyric, but it works. It really does.
Okay, Mikey.
This is hands down my favourite track on the album. And interestingly, if you had the cassette, this would have been the first track of side 2.
Yeah.
So it as Barnes said, I think the rest of the album plays out as a suite of music and themes. And interestingly, you've got that rain-water metaphor thing going on again. I think it sounds wonderful. It sounds desolate. It sounds claustrophobic, and it's all the better for it. I think there's just so much atmosphere in this track. I can't put into words what I hear. You need to hear it to just understand it. I just think it's really, really good. There's quite a lot of interesting sound effects in this and the next track, actually. And I love the backwards keyboard sounds towards the end. Absolutely wonderful stuff. I'm going to read you out something that Roger O'Donnell, the keyboard player, said of Prayers in Rain and the next track. He said, "One thing that I think about on this album is those terrible sound effects that were put all over. I hated them and fought against them. I hate anything that's too literal, and why would you need to put thunder or rain into songs that convey that? Isn't it too obvious?" Robert had bought a collection of sound effect CDs, which ran on the emulator, and he loved them so much that he put them all over the record.
Okay.
But anyway, favourite track on the album for me, I think it's absolutely stonking.
Okay. Craig, what do you make of it?
Do you go back 30 years, John? Do you remember Dream Disciples album In Amber?
I do, yeah.
I think that was very, very much influenced from the second half of this album.
Yeah.
Obviously not vocally. Dream Disciples were like not a goth band, but they were
a little bit. They were a bit,
yeah.
Right.
They came out the early 90s. They were around for about 10 years and stuff like that. And Fish, he did one album with them.
They were signed to Dick Brothers, weren't they? Yeah.
Signed to Dick Brothers for an album. And there's a lot of influences on that album I can see from this album. Not vocally, but just musically and thematically and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's the start of getting quite deep down. I think musically It's interesting, and I like what Mike is saying. The keyboards, almost like backwards styling keyboards, and then it flows into the next track. It's I like it. And, I like me depressing songs, so hey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit. Yeah, it's a bit too long for me, and a bit sprawly, and a bit sort of Robert's making it up off the top of his head, talking over the top of it. It's the opposite for me to what it is for Mikey, I think. I think after Fascination Street, directly before it, this is like unfocused, and it does kind of put across the sort of doom and the depression, which is what he's trying to do, but it's just too long. It's just too long. It probably runs out of steam at about 4.5 minutes for me, because we just get more of the same.
Do you not
That's
think
part of the oppressive feel of it, though?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's.
I mean, not counter argument, John, because you're obviously entitled to your opinion, wrong though it is. But do you not think part of the whole thing is the album's not? I mean, the length of the song is not the thing where that's what it's about. It's about the slow, long listen. I think that's part of what it's about. It's not.
That's fine if it changes bands, but to just have there's almost 4 minutes of the same thing on this.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's its charm, really. I think that's what it's all about.
But the 4 minutes of the same thing is fine if it grows, but to just stay the same.
Yeah, well,
with Smith talking over the top of it.
Well, and obviously, clearly we're not thinking exactly alike, John. I get that, but I mean, for me, I sort of do like the way the pace of it is what I like about it. I don't want it to run all over the place. I just want it in this world for a long moment, if you like, before it goes into the next world for long. In my mind, you know what I mean? I know we're all different.
Yeah, I mean, you've lived with it for a long time, and obviously it means a lot to you. I've played it probably about 6 times in total. This isn't a shaft of light. This is not doing it for me at the minute.
It's probably a bit like that Brave album that you like. I'm not quite.
No, yeah. Well, very first, I mean, we've said it on the other podcast. We didn't really get brave when we first heard it, did we? But we.
Well, I'm still waiting, but that's another story.
Really?
Dead to me. Who are you?
You heathen. Anyway,
that's one for another day.
More depression. Next track, same deep water as you.
So this is definitely my favorite song on the album. I absolutely adore it, and the reason I like it, I think this is the song before Disintegration, the title track. This is the sort of lowest point of the thing, and I think the words are amazing. The sort of storyteller, which is Robert clearly in this story, is sort of talking about a time where it's definitely a relationship breakup, that he just can't reach the expectations or live in the rules or the expectations that his wife or girlfriend or whatever expects. He just can't. He's just in his sort of self-loathing, just can't hit the mark, really. If you listen to got the lyrics up here. Swim in the same deep water as you is hard. I mean, that's sort of song, really. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that it's 9 minutes long. I know you possibly might say this, put the same. I don't know. I can imagine you could say the same thing about this as the previous track, but I just think it's amazing. And despite what O'Donnell says, I like the thunder and rain at the start and end as well. So there we go. That's my vote for what it's worth.
Okay, great.
I've spent weeks trying to work out who this makes me think of. And someone's just answered it in his comment about the previous song. It's got that dream desire. It's got that kind of, it's, because I was going to say it's almost like Fields and Efferman again, but it's not, because it's nowhere near hard enough. But it's got that gothic feel without being goth. And it's interesting because I end up down rabbit holes on Reddit and all sorts of things talking about song meanings and all that kind of stuff. And some people say it's about suicide. Some people say it's interesting. I found a post and the guy goes, he says, a song only beaten by disintegration itself in terms of beautiful, soul shedding, disturbing music. Spent many a night listening to this at full volume in a darkened room. The suicide suggestion is probably correct, but could just be a metaphor for the intensity of a specific relationship. I think it may be referring to the acceptance that a particular relationship will ultimately destroy you, and yet there is an all-consuming need to continue with it. So that kind of, I know it's wrong, but I can't let go. So that suffocation and all that, and the music gives you that kind of feeling, the way it's the darkness to it. And I love the thunder and stuff at the beginning. And I hadn't noticed. Right, we're going to get it right there. Mikey, was it you that talked about the watery themes throughout this album?
Yeah.
I hadn't even noticed that until I started again paying attention to it properly. I hadn't noticed that through the album.
Mikey?
This is my second favorite track on the album. When it first kicked in, I honestly thought that my iPod had flicked to Enya's Storms in Africa. Just that booming crash when the thunder comes in, I thought was absolutely inspired. And yes, literal, but I think it really works in its context. For me, this track just dials up the filmic feel even more. And I didn't think that the 9 minutes on this dragged in any way at all. I think it's one of those ones where it doesn't sound like filler and padding. It just works for me. And that 9 minutes just flies over. Absolutely does. What I was going to what I did get from it was one of those when you like people want to expect something from you that you never can give. Like when I think that's what he's trying to convey in the song. I'm not entirely sure, but it's like I've become hollow. I can't give anymore, and it's that descent into disintegration. It's the next song for me, and it follows the previous one quite nicely as well, because you've got somebody sort of like praying for rain. It's that the need of water to wash away something and bring about renewal. And in this track, they've got so much of the water that they're drowning under it. I just think that just the two things working together and the water themes running throughout this album is so cleverly done. Yeah, top-notch stuff again. Really enjoyed it.
Greg?
I agree with Mikey that I don't think this 9 minutes actually overstays its welcome. It's atmospheric. It doesn't go as many places as you would necessarily want it to. But, and again, it's got, like I said earlier with one of the earlier tracks, it's got that bit of Duran Duran guitar feel to it. And this doesn't really feel, apart from the vocals, it doesn't really feel like a Cure song. It's more atmospheric, it's more cinematic than that. And yeah, dark as fuck.
Great.
It is. Yeah, I can't say too much about it. It's a step up from the last track. Robert's clearly disturbed at this point, but he is singing. He's not speaking over it. The 9 minutes does feel like 9 minutes, though. I'm sorry to say that. Barnes, the next track, the title track, Disintegration.
Right, you're going to love this one, John, I reckon.
Am I?
Yeah.
Is it a party track?
It most certainly is. So my knowledge of this, sort of research knowledge, is that this was the very first song that was written, album song. I suspect a couple of the singles might have been written independently. But in writing this song, this was what gave Robert Smith the direction of the album, where it was going to go, which is quite weird because actually the sound of it's quite different to all the other songs completely.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's incredibly wordy, said very quickly. So it's one hell of a mission getting all the words out, particularly when he sings it live. This is the point in the arc of the story, if you like, where he just cracks and can't take any more, and the whole lot comes out in one splurge of, breaking down, as far as I can see. It's almost could be the end if there wasn't a happy ending to come later on. It's sort of broken down, disintegration. There's amazing lyrics in it. I'm not going to go through all those, but I mean, I think it's an absolute class song. Again, like most of these songs live, it just sounds otherworldly. It's brilliant. And how he gets through all the words and remembers them is like, I mean, I've listened to this since it came out, and I still can't remember the words when I'm singing along to it. So it's quite a feat, I would say.
Okay, great.
This is one of the dark songs on the album that I actually like, and I think I like it because it's got that driven, because it's got the driven rhythm and all that kind of stuff. Am I right in thinking that on the vinyl, this would have been the last track on the album because Homesick
No.
wasn't on it.
No, there would have been one more on the end, which would have been Homesick at the end, which is the reprieve. This is like the made again, if you like.
Okay.
But no, so there would have been one more song. There's technically two, really, in our world.
Right. Okay. Because to me, it's the payoff. It's the payoff for making it through the stuff that you struggle with, all the struggle that this song makes listening to them. Although it is the end, it is disintegration. It's like actually falling apart. I'm not making it. The way it's done lifts at the end. It's almost as if it's a release because it just actually ends. I don't mean that the album ends. I mean like the downward spiral into the depression and getting old and all that everything that's going wrong. Fuck it, let's just get it over and done with. And to me, that's how, because otherwise it shouldn't be an upbeat song, and it feels like an upbeat song, which is weird.
Yeah. I mean,
musically upbeat, lyrically downbeat.
Yeah.
Okay, Mikey.
Yeah, another really, really good song for me. And it's another biggie, isn't it? 8 minutes. And again, I don't feel that 8 minutes when I'm listening to it. It is quite a dark song. I'm getting overtones of infidelity going on in the lyrics as well. But I think it's got, like Graham said, it's and Barnes, it's like a spew of lyrics. It's got a tempo pace that's faster than the previous two, and I think it's needed. And I am going to say some of the lyrics because I think it's absolutely brilliant. I leave you with photographs, pictures of trickery, stains on the carpet and stains on the scenery. Songs about happiness murmured in dream when both of us know how the ending would seem. And at the end of it, there's like this mantra spoken part, which is how the end always is, how the end always is. And it's almost like, he can't see a way out of how he's feeling at this point, And I agree. I think there's like a inverted commas made again part of this album, which I think is untitled, because the next track wasn't on the vinyl edition. So in some ways, I actually wish this had ended the album. I don't dislike the next two tracks, but I think this would have ended the album better. That's my take on it.
Okay, Craig.
Yeah, I'm with Mikey on it. I like the way that it changes the pace for it. But what I would have loved to have heard with this track is some orchestration on it. I know it wouldn't fit with The Cure so much, it wouldn't fit with the thing but I think that musically this really would have been nice with some like strings and building strings and things in the background.
Do you not think that would take away from the lyrics? Because he's really going for it by the time he gets the end. He's just struggling to get all his words out.
But that would help the build.
There is a keyboard wash in the background doing a little bit of that.
Yeah, there is, but it's just what I would have liked myself. But that's just me being a picky bastard. But no, it's building to a crescendo.
Yeah, it's a better track. I think the fact that Praise for Rain and Same Deep Water as You follow each other doesn't help Same Deep Water as You to me as a listener. Disintegration has a purpose, and it's the most emotional that Smith has been throughout the album. I think as Barnes said, this is where it's all coming out, and the lyrics they're not wordy in a fish type way, but there's a lot of them. That's great, good track. Track 11, Barnes.
Can I just mention the bridge? If the bridge of the song, and
that's a good song.
Well, it's good song. Poor album, but that's another story. So the bridge of this song, I'll try and say as clear. I'm not very articulate, not very good at reading, but here we go. Now that I know that I'm breaking to pieces, I'll pull out my heart and I'll feed it to anyone. Crying for sympathy, crocodiles cry, as in crocodiles tears, for the love of the crowd, and 3 cheers for everyone. In other words, it's going through the motions, a tour and all that sort of stuff, but whatever. And then there's this weird section which I did a bit of sort of googling to work out what Ellie was talking about, but the words are dropping through the sky, through the glass of the roof, through the roof of your mouth, through the mouth of your eye, through the eye of a needle. Well, it turns out to be some Bible quote, which I don't think you know about. But the Bible quote is, there's more chance of getting a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man going to heaven, or something like that. And the words he used are, through the eye of the needle, it's easier for me to get closer to heaven than ever feel whole again. Classic, absolute gold. There you go.
All right. Track 11, Homesick.
Homesick and Untitled, the tempo now is down. They're slightly more tuneful. Again, they're in the same sort of filmic sort of vibe. Not long intros, few words, poetry, if you like, in the middle. The music is an accordion or something is playing. I don't exactly know. I'm not very musical, but
in Untitled,
starts with the piano. Starts with a piano. Oh, that's the other way around. So on this one, it's started like a piano sort of thing, and it's much more tuneful, lighter.
It's piano and guitar to begin with, yeah.
Yeah. The lyrics, let's be honest, are not particularly any lighter than anything else. So this is not a happy ending or a, this is the resolution to the story. It just stays down and remains down on both tracks, actually. But I think the tone of the music is slightly more uplifting. If uplifting is the word I'm looking for, I don't know.
Okay. Great.
So sticking with the filmic feel, if Disintegration was the climax of the movie and the last big scene of the story, this to me is the end titles. This is like, it's all happened, we're moving away, take the time to breathe. And it gives you that, for me, it's the space after the last 3 or 4 tracks that have gone before it, which are all really quite oppressive. This is much lighter than those. Like guitar and piano start, and the do 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 do, the motif that plays through it. It's almost relaxed, and it gives you that time to go, what have I just listened to, and process it. Not necessarily anything earth shattering or good about it, but I think essential for the album. I think it's that really needed to give you that palate cleanser, because otherwise you'd go away from it wanting to hang yourself from the rafters.
Yeah, Mikey.
Yeah, I quite like the change in pace in this one. I love the acoustic guitar work in it. I think that was I know there's acoustic guitars in the album, but it was, put to the forefront on this track, and I think it's really nicely done. There's some nice sort of like ascending and descending riff work going on in the background as well, which I really liked. And the fact that it's about 3 minutes again of intro just gives you that, like Graham says, that palate cleansing breathing space after Disintegration that I think's needed. And the track's very much a two-hander for me as well, because towards the end it feels almost like a band jam session almost. It has a very live feel to it. Not one of my favorites on the album. I think we're starting to get to the themes outstaying their welcome to a degree. And for me, I think the album might have worked better without these last 2 tracks on them.
Yeah.
Possibly I might have kept Untitled and kicked something like Fascination straight off.
So am I right in thinking Homesick wasn't on?
It wasn't on the vinyl.
On the
vinyl.
No.
Yeah. So a bit middling compared to where the rest of the album's been for me, but I can sense why it's where it is.
Yeah.
Greg?
Yeah, on my notes, I have put you've got a bit of breathing space after the crescendo of the end of Disintegration, and I have also put, was this based on a jam that they worked on and through? So I'm with Mikey on that. And I think it is a bit middling. It's got still continuing the themes and that, but To me, if it wasn't here, I don't think it would make that much difference to the album. So I could understand if they took it off the vinyl initially, because it's not. I don't feel it's an essential tune to what you've actually just gone through.
Okay. I quite like this compared to the other two long tracks that were before the title track. I think you're right. It's got a bit of a band jam to about it, but
Even the jazzy keyboard
about
stuff
it.
and
But
everything there to it.
that's a strength in my book. The tracks that I really struggle with on this album are where the guitar's off doing one thing and the bass is doing something else, and the keyboards are over here playing something else. They're the tracks that I like the least. This feels a very together track. And like, as Mikey said, that guitar work in the middle is brilliant, really melodic. I mean, it probably overstays its welcome by a minute or two, but it's lovely. It
Doesn't feel like a Cure
really
song though, does it?
Sorry?
Doesn't really feel like a Cure song though, does it?
No, it doesn't. But that's not a bad thing for me, you know. Anyhow, on to the end. Barnes, last track, Untitled.
So the last track is called Untitled, you know. This could be Made Again. This is the Made Again. So if we imagine it coming from Disintegration into this is, I think, the palette cleanser, in, as we said, on the original album. There are a lot of similarities between Homesick and Untitled in some ways, certainly in the mood, I think. This is the one that starts with the accordion sound, isn't it? And it's a slightly...
a bit outside the wall, isn't it?
Yeah, outside the wall. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I like all that. So, you know, I mean, it just brings it to an end, clearly. A couple of the lyrics here, never quite said what I wanted to say to you, never quite managed the words to explain to you, never quite knew how to make them believable, and now the time is done. You know, I mean, that's Made Again, isn't it? That's the same thing. But it's you know, I mean, I can't say how much I like it because I keep saying the same thing, don't I? I just think the whole thing would just works as one long suite, and it's just like part of the whole thing for me. I just, you know, the length of it, I don't even know how long it is. It's just one long thing for me, and it's probably another, 6-7 minutes or something, I guess.
Yeah.
Incredibly long outro. Great. Don't have a problem with that in the slightest, you know.
Okay. Great.
So I think this, to me, especially with just having heard those lyrics again, so paying attention to the lyrics for this, it made me question what I thought of the album. So obviously you read all the bit about he was 30 years old, he was having issues and all this kind of stuff, didn't want to get old and all that kind of stuff. But the more attention you pay to the lyrics, the more it is about fears of a relationship, whether the relationship is failing or not what he should have, or all that kind of, or maybe as Barnes said about the troubles with being who he is and trying to maintain a relationship because of what he's done. So the whole thing's kind of morphed for me as I've listened to it over the last couple of weeks. It's changed my view of the sort of the mood suite at the end of the album has changed. And this, where I said Homesick is the payoff, the palate cleanser, this is, as Barnes has said, this is the second groove on the last side of the record. You know, this is sometimes again you'll get the happy ending. It's not happy music, but it's that kind of it's a new view, a new outlook. So yeah,
Mikey?
Yeah. As much as I said that Disintegration should have ended the album, I still actually really like this track. It's another bass heavy led track, which I think is wonderful. And for me, it pays back to Close Down, the third track. You know, you've got that home sat in the middle of, you know, sprawling instrumentation either side of it. And again, I don't think it offers anything new to the album, though. I think that's my only thing with this album is some of the sounds become a tiny bit repetitive, and I think a 10-track album would have suited better than a 12-track album, but I don't necessarily think that the 10 tracks on the vinyl were the right choices either. Having said that, the accordion work on this I think's absolutely sublime. I think it's really nice. It changes things up quite a bit. But again, like some of the lyrics, I wrote these down, which was feeling the monster climb deeper inside of me, feeling him gnawing my heart away hungrily. He's got some bloody good words, that guy. So yeah, it's a nice ending to the album. I understand why it's that way, but it's not how I would have ended it.
Okay. Craig?
Yeah, I did get the accordion outside the wall at the very start of the track. I mean, it doesn't go on like that at all. It's just that first bit there. I can understand why they are ending the album with this. I mean, I don't think we needed Homesick. This I understand. It's the aftermath. It's the morning later. It doesn't have, comparing it to Made Again. It doesn't have the uplifting feel or the uplifting musicality of Made Again. This is still down and depressing. But I think as an album closer, it does work.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. I think it kind of doesn't bring some resolution, but it draws a line under it. I think the lyric that Mikey sort of read was what I was going to say as well. But the last two lines of the album is "I'll never lose this pain, never dream of you again."
Until the next night, and he goes through it all
Sorry?
again.
Yeah, until you put it on again and live it out again. It's more like a Cure track than the one before it. I mean, Mikey's talking about taking tracks off the album. I think we probably take different tracks off the album, so it kind of sags a little bit in the bits that Barnes loves. Like the praise for Rain and Same Deep Waters, you are just too alike for me. I think Untitled is different to anything else that's on the album, so it justifies its place for me there. But yeah, I mean, do you want to just go round table and sum the album up to somebody who hasn't heard it? Van?
Am I going first? I
Yeah.
mean, I would say possibly what I've learned this afternoon is maybe it's one of these albums that's not as instant as I thought it was. Which again, in our world, is probably a good thing because we've all listened to albums 30,000 times before we agree they're all a masterpiece. So, which is quite interesting. I thought it was more immediate than that. I think if I was judging the four candidates around the table, I think Mikey possibly liked it the most, followed by Graham, and then I would say probably 1 out of 10 from John, John and Craig.
No.
It's difficult to say, really.
Well,
But,
the first couple of plays, I found it really impenetrable. I thought, Christ, what am I going to say about this?
yeah.
And it was very much like Brave. After about the fourth play, you're hearing things that you didn't hear.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like a switch. The whole thing's just, you put it on and it's on. It's like one of them things, and it's like, that's it. It's just that's the next hour of my time taken up listening to this for the probably billionth time. Do you know what I mean? I like as much now as I ever have done it. I never get bored of it. I don't know quite how, but I never get bored of listening to it. It's just one of them things. This thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's simplicity in some ways as part of its charm, I guess, in some ways,
It's clearly important to you, and that's why we've got you on here.
There we go.
Great.
I think if 17 seconds or Staring at the Sea is where your Cure listening experience resides, this will be something that will take a while to get used to. It's been it's been out 30 odd years. Is it 30 odd years? No,
29, yeah, about that.
29 years, yeah. And even
that's
the last
35.
the last 2 weeks,
35,
is it 35 years? Yeah.
36 years this year.
The last 2 weeks I've heard far more in it than I ever paid. But it was because I struggled with it to begin with, because I was a fan of the singles and the lighter stuff that went before it. But it's worth the investment. And I think it's something that we've learned, especially the four of us, over the last few albums that we've looked at. There's always been something in an album. The first time you listen to it, you're like, I mean, take me and the Pep Shop Boys album. I was like, what am I listening to? By the end of it, I was like, listen to those lyrics. So you take different things away. So if you like The Cure, give it a shot. If you like Melancholy, give it a shot. If you like any of the other bands that we've mentioned, give it a shot. It's not an album to be sniffed at.
Okay, Mikey.
I I'm the complete other end of the spectrum, which is I got this from first listen. I was absolutely blown away. Um, but we're coming from a guy who likes listening to Hertz and Marillion's Brave, and it's like I said when you get to the end of the Hertz album, you feel emotionally drained and exhausted, and yes, that's how you feel from Disintegration, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. If I want to get an emotive feeling from an album and I want to feel a bit disheveled by the end of it, then yeah, I'll probably pick up Disintegration again. I was pleasantly surprised. And I went into it going, no, I don't like The Cure. But then I was telling myself off because it's like, well, actually you do quite like The Cure. You only know the singles. Don't poo-poo this before you go into it. And yeah, I can heartily recommend it. You might not get it on your first listen. I'm still picking up new things on replays, but from play one, I loved it. Really enjoyed it.
Greg?
I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I think similar to John. I found some of it a bit heavy going to begin with, but I found myself as listening and enjoying the more cinematic stuff and the more soundscapey stuff, and in it being not necessarily the singles and the hookier songs that have been my favourites. So I've enjoyed the experience, and I will dig into it again just to get. And I think it's one of those albums that you do need to live with longer to get. Like I said earlier on the pod, he's never been one of my favorite vocalists, and getting over that hurdle for me is the biggest thing. But I think he's the talented guys.
Yeah. I mean, certainly from our Facebook group, there's a lot of love for this album. But, it's primarily Marillion fans who kind of in that Facebook group as well. So, and I really do, all joking aside, know what it means to Barnes, which is why we've brought it onto the pod. I can't say that I'm leaving here thinking it's a Stone Cold classic, because it isn't for me. It doesn't have that emotional resonance that some of the other records that I like have for me. That doesn't mean it's not there. It means that I can't pick up on that. Musically, it took till about the fourth or the fifth play for some of the deeper tracks like Fascination Street and Last Dance to hit. The singles are the singles for a reason, because they are melody and hook laden, whereas some of the album tracks really aren't that. They're more about the atmospherics and the lyrics that Smith's talking about. A bit like Craig, I'm not a massive fan of his vocal delivery unless he's singing. When he's singing, I'm all right with that. But if you've not heard it before, I would say give it 2 or 3 spins. I really would be surprised if you got it from first spin, as Mikey did. There's so much going on here. We've talked for a long time about this record, so I don't really want to go on about the tour. I mean, there is a live album which just features the tracks from the album called Untreat. Is that right, Barnes?
That is correct. At the time, it was a standalone vinyl, LP, or whatever you want to call it, CD. In the streaming world that we all know and love now, it's part of a deluxe set. So there's got the original side, disc one, if you like. This is at the end, then there's some demo stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
And then there's another great rendition of it from a thing called Trilogy, which they did in 2002 in Berlin, 2 shows in Berlin, where they did the trilogy of their, in the nicest way, 3 most depressing albums back to back. You'd love that night.
Which albums?
Well, they did Pornography,
yeah,
Disintegration, and then their latest at the time, which is called Blood Flowers, which is, I think they were trying to hark back a bit to Disintegration and Pornography, but in some ways it's the weakest of the 3, but for obvious reasons, really. But it's available. I think it came out as a concert film and then DVD and Blu-ray and all that sort of malarkey. So that's good.
Yeah.
And it's most of it, or a large number of the songs get a good outing at most Cure shows, which are 3 hours long. They probably play a good third of this, sometimes 2/3 of this album, and not just the hits. They'll play the sort of darker songs as well, which are amazing live, as you can imagine. So yeah, that's that.
Great.
That's really weird because the last time I saw The Cure was 2022. And the only songs from this album they played were Pictures of You and Love Song. And I was going to comment about how little of it they played on that tour, but I don't know if that's
Hyde Park. Was that Hyde Park, Graham, or was that?
No, that was the OVO, the Wembley Arena one.
All right. Yeah. Oh, I was saying. Well, maybe they'd mixed it up a bit from the previous one, but
Yeah.
so, I've seen probably, I don't know, a dozen times over the years. And they go in, fits and starts, don't they, obviously? But certainly the last time I've seen them, they played a lot from these two albums.
But I think also, so obviously they just got songs from the Lost World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you liked that, I would listen to this. And it's really weird because I love the new album. And a lot of it has the very long intros. It's got the sort of, it's still more Cure than this perhaps, but it's got the long intros. It's got that kind of dynamic to it. So if you like the new album, definitely give this a listen.
I think all the journalists when it came out said it's the old classic. If you're a journalist, you say the same things, but this is their best album since Disintegration. That's what they'll say, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's certainly from the same stable, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's probably a good place to draw this to a close then, guys, don't you?
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for
I
listening.
was just going to mention that the artwork conveys again that theme of water. There was a orchestral maneuvers in the dark album called Junk Culture, which was released in 1984, and that was a photograph of plastic flowers floating on a black background. And obviously this one's very similar in that you've got Robert Smith under the water with the plastic flowers floating on top. And I just thought it was a very effective image to portray what's going on in the album. I think it was top notch.
Yeah, it's a great.
Anyone who has Apple Music, obviously they have the animated covers now, and it's got the raindrops on the water ripples. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to call it a day then, don't you?
Very good.
I'll say that again.
Very good.
Wait for Mikey to say something else. Thank you very much to Andrew Barnsley Wood.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Thank you to Graham Tennick.
Cheers. It's been a good listen, this one.
Good. Thank you, Mikey.
Thanks very much again, guys, and thank you, Barnes. Classic album. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And thank you to Craig.
Well, thank you, young sir.
Thanks for listening, folks. Let us know what you think of this album in the Facebook group. Planet Marzipan presents Planet Music Podcast, or whatever we call the group. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a different album.
It's something more uplifting.
Thank you. Well, possibly. Thanks for listening. Take care.
And
stay alive.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening.
To Planet Music from the makers of Planet Marzipan.
If you like what you've heard, please like and subscribe, and maybe even join our Facebook discussion group.
You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com.